Welcome back to the dungeon. I want to talk with you about a project I just completed. Been working on my Brompton folding bicycle. I have a repair to do on that bicycle. Um, and I thought I'd share it with you and share it with folks on Reddit and elsewhere who, some of the folks I've consulted about this problem. I've been a Brompton owner since the fall of 2021, and I love the idea of having a bike that I can take with me anywhere. I can take it on a train, a plane, a bus, go to another city, unfold this bike, get around, see things in a different way than I might otherwise see it. It's a great bike, Brompton. It's made in London, and as I say, I've had a bike since fall of 2021. This spring, I took the Brompton with me on two different trips. First, a trip to this resort in Jamaica. It's like a 400-acre property, so it's nice to have the Brompton to go around there. I wasn't trying to make a cross-country Brompton trip in Jamaica. Might not have been too practical, but at least getting around the resort, it was great. And then a couple weeks later, I took the bike on a trip to, a few days later, I took it on a trip to Portugal, mainly in Lisbon. And for both of these trips, I packed the Brompton in my B&W hard case, which I figured would be the most secure traveling option, the safest option for not getting the bike damaged. I'm always nervous that my bike is going to get messed up by rough baggage handlers. Uh, so, packed the bike up, put it in the luggage, uh, uh, checked it as luggage to Jamaica. When I unpacked the bike at the resort in Jamaica, I noticed that the little plastic stem catcher was cracked. It was, it's this thing, there's a bolt on the stem that has a little nipple on it, and when you fold the stem down, this nipple goes into this plastic catcher on the fork, and that holds the handlebar down, to the side of the bike when it's folded. So this stem catcher was cracked and it was broken, so it couldn't serve the function it's supposed to serve. And I checked the rest of the bike over. Again, I was nervous about anything being damaged. Nothing else seemed to be damaged on the bike. So I just guessed that the B&W case had been handled roughly, and maybe the stem, the nipple on the end of this bolt, this stem, uh, on the side of the stem was pushed too far into the catcher, and it forced it to break the plastic, this hook, this plastic hook that catches the stem bolt nipple. So while I was in Jamaica, I got on the internet and I ordered a new stem catcher assembly online to be delivered to my home because I didn't want to have a broken stem catcher when I made the trip to Portugal a few days later. So finished the trip to Jamaica. Yeah, I used the bike while I was there. It was no big deal that I couldn't. I wasn't looking to fold the bike all the time while I was there. I was just riding around the resort. And if I needed to fold it, I just put a Velcro strap around the stem and held it to the side of the bike. But anyway, it was fine. I got back home after the trip to Jamaica and I installed the new stem catcher, and I figured I'd be good to go for the trip to Portugal. So I packed up, took the bike to Portugal, uh, got to the hotel in Portugal and unpacked the bike, looked at it. Great. No damage to the bike, no damage to the stem catcher. I was touring around a lot, took some bus tours, walking tours, this kind of thing. I didn't ride a lot. I was only able to ride one day, but I pretty much rode the whole day. And it was great. I rode down by the water. It was a marvelous day. Rode all through town. I'm definitely glad I took the Brompton on the trip to Portugal with me. But upon my return home from Portugal, I opened the case, unpacked the bike, and damn, the stem catcher assembly was broken again. This little plastic, stem catcher was broken again. So to make matters worse, it looked like the bolt that held the stem catcher nipple, this bolt that comes out of the side of the comes out of the stem on the bike, and it's welded to the stem. It's just a bolt that comes out of the side of the stem, and there's a nipple on the end, and that nipple goes into the stem catcher. Well, the bolt was bent, and since this bolt is welded to the stem, it's not easily replaced. And so I was just kind of beside myself, upset with this. It seemed like the bike was getting crushed inside the B&W case, and that crushing, I'm surmising that was putting a lot of pressure on the whole stem catcher thing. Pushing the bolt against the stem catcher too hard, and breaking it. So, I'm like, what should I do? So I looked online to see if anyone else had reported a similar problem, but I didn't even see one case. I mean, I looked on Google, I looked in Reddit, I looked around on YouTube. I didn't see one case where somebody said their stem bolt was broken. So I'm thinking, am I just dumb? Am I, doing something wrong? Or am I just incredibly unlucky? Nobody seemed to have experienced this bent stem bolt. So I called around. I called this place, this big Brompton retailer in Portland, Oregon, Clever Cycles. I talked to folks in the maintenance department there, the service department. They didn't really have anything to offer on how this happened, or I can't really remember. They didn't have any solution for me anyway. I called the Brompton Junction store, which is a factory store in New York, and that's where I bought the bike in the first place. And the tech there said he'd seen a few cases of bent stem bolts, and that the official Brompton solution was to replace the entire stem. And I wasn't anxious to do that because, the stem is not cheap. But the other thing is that my stem is this bronze lacquer, special color, special paint job. And I figured to get that replaced, there would be a long lead time getting that from the factory, aside from the expense. So I wasn't crazy about it. And it seems like kind of dumb anyway to have to replace a whole stem just because there's a bolt on the stem that's bent. And so I knew I could just secure the folded stem with a Velcro strap, but that would make, folding the bike less convenient, slow. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of this cool Brompton folding mechanism. So it just so happened that I was due for knee replacement surgery on May 1st, and I knew I wouldn't be riding my Brompton for several weeks. So I had some time to really research and come up with a solution, since I knew I wasn't going to be riding for a while. So I decided to make the best of this time that I'm not able to ride and really come up with a good solution for this stem catcher situation. So first thing I did, I turned to the Brompton community. Second thing I did, really, I turned to the Brompton community on Reddit for some potential solutions. And the community posted some interesting solutions. Some of them seemed like they might actually work. But, one person suggested I just buy a new stem. I knew I could do that. Wasn't crazy about that. Somebody else suggested that I find a welder and get another bolt welded to the stem to replace the one that was bent. And wasn't crazy about that because who knows, the thing could bend again. I'd be right back to square one. That's a whole nother issue. Why did it bend in the first place? Somebody had a really cool solution, elaborate solution involving getting a plate, putting a bolt through the plate, securing this bolt to the stem using a couple of pipe clamps, and putting the whole thing over like a rubber sleeve so it didn't damage the stem. It sounded like a solution that would work, but also sounded ugly. And I wasn't trying to, make my bike look ugly. And someone suggested that I design a 3D print a clamp to hold the stem bolt. Get a 3D printer, 3D print a clamp, especially for holding this bolt on the stem, and that seemed kind of intriguing. Uh, and somebody even suggested that I devise a new catch mechanism using magnets. So I appreciate all these suggestions, but I wanted something clean. I wanted something that looked like it might have come from the factory in the first place. Maybe even a better solution than this welded stem bolt. I like the idea of clamping a new bolt onto the stem, but what kind of clamp, would do this? So I looked around on Home Depot and Amazon for like pipe clamps, and there was nothing. There were a lot of pipe clamps, but nothing that seemed to really would do the job. But then I saw something when I was looking around called an accessory clamp on Amazon. And this seemed to be a pretty popular class of devices. Basically, people who have hot rods or Jeeps and stuff are constantly wanting to mount like a GoPro or something to the roll bar on their vehicle. And so there are clamps for doing this, and the standard kinds of diameters for these clamps are like 1.5 inches, I think, or 2 inches. Well, the diameter of the stem on the Brompton is 1 3/8 inches. That's the closest I could measure. So, if I had one of these off-the-shelf kind of accessory clamps that had a diameter of 1.5 inches, I could put a sleeve inside, to scrunch it down to 1 3/8. So I actually bought a couple of these clamps, and I made a solution using this off-the-shelf clamp. I had to do a little machining on it to get it to work, because the clamp was a little too, it stuck out a little too far to maintain the proper distance for this stem catcher nipple. Once you put everything together and put it on the end, it was kind of too long. So I had to machine part of the clamp down. But bottom line, both of those solutions seem to work. This clamp had a 1/4 inch top bolt, and the bolt on the Brompton is a number 6. So a 1/4 inch is a little bit bigger, and so when you try to put the nipple on the 1/4 inch bolt coming out of this clamp, you have to really force it on there. I wasn't crazy about that. It looked like it would work. Then I found this adapter. There's so many, it's interesting all the things that you can find online these days. I found a little adapter that would convert from 1/4 inch to number 6. So you screw the adapter into the the 1/4 inch hole, and on the other side it's number 6, and then I just screw the nipple onto that, and that looked like it would work. Again, it wasn't very flexible in terms of the distance, but it looked, in terms of the overall length, but it looked like that solution would work. But this clamp is a little heavy. It's aluminum. I didn't like having to use the sleeve inside the clamp, just another part, something else to, wear out over time. But basically the solution worked. And it didn't look, ugly. It wasn't intrusive. But I still wanted something more elegant. So I decided to look into this idea of 3D printing a clamp. So our local library in town has a maker shop that has 3D printers. And one of the folks there was very helpful and designed a clamp to my specifications. I had a clamp that was the wrong size that I found on eBay. But I gave him this clamp. I said, if you could make this clamp with a 1 3/8 inch inside diameter, I think this kind of thing will work. And so this person designed the clamp. It had a number 6 screw for holding the nipple on the top, and then it had side screws for securing the clamp to the stem. And this 3D printed clamp weighs next to nothing. It fits the stem perfectly without needing a sleeve. So basically, problem solved. So I no longer have to worry about bending my stem bolt. And if the new assembly gets damaged in some way, which I doubt because almost none of the bolt is exposed, beyond the clamp. It comes out of the clamp and then the nipple goes right over it there. But anyway, if the thing does get damaged, I can just replace it. I don't have to go about trying to find somebody to weld something onto the stem, that sort of thing. So I printed the earlier version of the clamp in orange. That was just a trial run PLA material. I printed the final version in black, a PET G material, a more robust material, and it looks better on the bike in black, frankly. So that's what we're using, and this is the final clamp. The two halves shown from the top and then from the side put together. You can see what the clamp looks like. Okay, so this is the top piece on the clamp. It's got a hex indentation inside to hold the bolt, and it's got a hex screw on the top, or a bolt nut on the top to hold the screw in, and the nipple for the Brompton is going to go on top of here. I tightened this down pretty tight with pliers. Again, since it's a hex indentation, that holds the bolt in place. I didn't use a lock washer on here. I just tightened it down really tight with a pair of pliers. I'm going to try to avoid using a lock washer here and see how that goes. So that is the top piece, and as I said, the nipple for the Brompton just screws on there. It's a number 6 screw. So the Brompton just goes on there like that, and up and down like that. I put some Loctite on the threads to hold it in once I'm sure that this whole thing works. So you can see where the bolt on the Brompton stem used to come out to hold the nipple. That is what bent. That bolt bent. So I had to break it off, and then I used my Dremel sander to grinder to grind the residual down so that it's kind of smooth at that point. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because the clamp is going to go over that. This is what the collar looks like on the stem when the stem is extended. As you can see, it doesn't add a lot of bulk or anything. Again, it almost looks like it came on the bike. And I could probably add another one of these collars if I wanted to put some other kind of accessory on the stem, like a camera or something. Maybe look into doing something like that further. So one more thing, I'm gonna let it swing in. I'm gonna let it swing in Brompton style, as if I'm closing the thing. And you can see that it just goes right into the catch by itself. Boom. There it is. So, looks like problem solved. So it might be possible to further optimize this clamp solution. For example, I could 3D print something that incorporates the nipple, so I don't need a bolt and a nut and a nipple on top of the clamp. So that could eliminate some parts, and but that might reduce the positioning flexibility. But since I have this bolt on the top, I can screw the nipple down more or less, and kind of control the overall length of this nipple from the stem if I need to do that. But at any rate, I'm satisfied with the solution I have for now, and I'm anxious, now that my knee is starting to get better, I'm anxious to get out and ride again. But I still need to understand, why did this stem bolt get bent in the first place, and do I need to change the way that I pack the bike into the B&W case? I also got, a few weeks ago, one of these Vincita cases from Thailand. This case is a soft case, but it has like a garment bag that goes over the bike, and I'm anxious to try that out. But I want this B&W case solution to work, because it looks like the thing that protects the bike the best. My bike is what they used to call the H6R. It's the higher handlebars and 6-speed with the rack. and it's a tight fit for the B&W case. So I don't know if that's part of my problem or not. So I'd be curious to know if anybody has any observations or suggestions about this. So at any rate, that's my story. That was my project for the month of May, getting this Brompton, stem catcher assembly situation squared away. It's squared away now, and if anyone would like some information about my clamp solution, I'd be happy to provide it further. I'm also interested to know if anybody else has seen this problem, because it looks like it's a pretty rare situation overall. So again, am I just unlucky? Am I doing something wrong? Am I packing my bike wrong? I look for feedback on any and all of that. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye-bye.